Good evening, Jack Hickey. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
I'm good, very good. Yourself?
Good, thanks. How has lockdown been treating you? Has it taken any effect?
It's been funny. It's been good and bad because, as people probably don't know, but we had kind of planned to go to New York with some of the artwork. One of the pieces actually behind you at the moment, and so I was really looking forward to it. 2020 was going to be like the year,
I know.
and then COVID happened. So it was kind of, I was disappointed that I wasn't traveling over to New York and exhibiting the artwork with you. But what on the other hand, it gave me kind of a little bit more time to create more paintings and be able to add them to what you already have, so that if we do go back next year, there's going to be more paintings if they're not snapped up by then, obviously.
Yeah, well, I have to say, when the container was obviously stuck in New York for the last 3 months, so it's only back in the gallery now, but it's so nice to actually have them hanging on the wall, because we didn't really get to see them because they were created up pretty much straight away. So yeah, it's lovely, and they are getting amazing feedback. So usually we launch a show with all new work, so it pretty much is because not many people have seen it in the gallery. But have you got a favorite from this collection?
Oh, it's tough. It's probably the one behind you, actually, the Make Bunting Great Again, because it kind of it's where I stayed, and it's kind of the quintessential suburbia, I suppose, and there's the hint of the kind of Americana with the little bunting and stuff like that. So I think that one was probably my favorite. I did like the water tower of Hicksville as well, because Hicksville was the town where I stayed at, and it was kind of ironic, because when I told my friends that I was going to Hicksville, they thought it was hilarious because my second name's Hickey, so I was like, Hickey is going to Hicksville, like, so there's a bit of funny coincidence there. All right.
I'd love to just start at the beginning. I mean, you're with us pretty much since you graduated from Crawford. We've had a couple of solo shows with you, always sold out. So I suppose, let's just start with you. Did you always know you were going to be an artist?
I think it was a funny thing, because when I was in school, I was good at two things. I was good at sport and I was good at art. So I was good kind of, and when I kind of realized that I wasn't going to be a professional sports star or anything like that, then I kind of knew that I'd go down the art route. And I suppose I thought of teaching as well, but just because of how I did in college and after college, I kind of decided that I was going to spend a few years anyway, at least giving it a go as a full-time practicing artist. And it has paid off with some achievements or some competitions that I won.
Definitely has, yeah. So you went into Crawford straight away, did you, or did you do a portfolio course before?
No, I went straight away, and it's kind of, I think there was about 15 of us that went straight out of, I think there was about 60, I think. So 15 came directly from secondary school. The rest had all done a PLC course or a mature student, or they had done some sort of course or portfolio course. So yeah.
Did you like Crawford? I mean, would you recommend? I mean, they do kind of. You started off doing photography, didn't you, first?
It was one of my subsidiaries, so it was kind of like one of the things that I had to do as part of a kind of side. I also had to do like print and sculpture, but photography was the one that I continued doing, and it was a mixture of painting in the studio and then doing photography 1 or 2 days a week, and I really enjoyed it. But it's that kind of difference between the painting, because there is a difference. It's some people look at my work and they go, it's very very photographic, which it is, but it's funny. It's out when you see it in the flesh. It's a lot different. You can actually see the brush strokes. You can actually see things. So a photograph can give a good representation of a painting, but I would definitely recommend that you go see paintings in the flesh if you can, any chance.
So. And then, so you did a bit of everything in Crawford, but then how did you get towards fine art?
It was a bit of everything, and the thing is that, like, a lot of people, when they go to art college, they think that they're going there and they're going to learn how to paint like the masters, or they're going to, sculpt like the masters. And art colleges these days don't really do that. It's more academies that do that. Like if you go to Florence and do the Florence Academy, they teach you how to paint like Rembrandt and those. The art colleges they're not really too pushed on how you make or how you create. It's more about the thinking behind it, like the concepts, the ideas. They're kind of more important because they also know that because you have to do a portfolio to get into our college, it's like you're kind of already at a level or a skill. So now they just want to work on your more the kind of concepts and ideas and what you're trying to get across as an artist. So I try and kind of get a balance between having like high quality work, but also having some sort of concept or idea behind it so that it kind of attracts the viewer and they can start asking questions and stuff.
And have you ever gone to Florence and stayed with it and done any of the courses in the academies?
No, I haven't. I've been kind of pretty much self-taught. I think a lot of it came, like, apart from obviously going to our college, but in our college we just had like life drawing classes, or you could ask a tutor and they might give you a few techniques, but really you had to kind of learn it on your own with the oil paint, definitely. And I think it came from when I was a kid. I used to paint a lot of models, like little like Airfix or other sort of figurines and stuff like that. And I think that kind of that detail and that attention to detail kind of translated or transported into definitely the kind of paintings that I do nowadays. So it's kind of very similar. I'm just an adult doing that, whereas I was a kid when I was.
It's funny, I spoke to one of our other artists, Dave West, and he said Lego really helped him when he was a kid.
Yeah, I'm a big Lego fan. I still have all my Lego, but all my nieces and nephews are taking
really?
it out. So yeah.
It's mad, isn't it? Maybe it's to do with the perception and the
It's definitely. I think it's to do with working with your hands. It's like create things with your hands. Illustrators in particular definitely use Lego a lot. I know that because it's kind of like how can you get across something in the simplest way with the kind of the smallest amount. So it's like.
So we saw your lovely video of yourself in your studio, and my God, the scenery is amazing. So you're based in Cove, which is gorgeous. I've been there a few times, so it's lovely. And your studio is like the ideal studio I think every artist would dream of. Are you quite strict with your schedule? Like, do you start every day and at a certain time, or do you work during the night?
I used to always work at nighttime because it's a lot quieter and you can just get stuff done, and you can concentrate a bit more. But I think in the last few years I've started kind of definitely painting during the day and trying to get more of a routine. So like start early in the morning and then try and get at least some painting done over the time. So nowadays it's a bit more routine based, but I think that just comes from getting older, to be honest, where you just kind of say, okay, I need to actually put in some structure here and actually try and hit deadlines and other kind of obstacles that you have to try and overcome as well. I think routine does become pretty important the later you go on, so I'm trying it, but I think artists at the best of times can be flaky sometimes, and I'm trying to be proactive, but I guarantee there's probably people who know me who are probably listening to this and then they're going, oh, that's so I think compared to other artists I'm pretty good, but compared to the norm I'm pretty bad.
You've been an artist from quite a young age, and you really, straight away you had deadlines on solo shows. And at the start, I remember you did a whole touring show of your work with different art centers, which was quite a hectic schedule. So maybe you overdid it at the start.
I think as well, when you get a bit older and your time gets a bit more precious, I'm starting to maybe do work rather than do this crazy body of work that'll take me like 2 years, and then I'm not getting any financial benefit from those 2 years, and I have to wait then and see if the work sells. I'm starting to be a bit more strategic about it, and a bit more kind of, if I'm doing a painting, it might be for a purpose, whether it be to enter into a competition, or whether it be to head up to the gallery with you, like when the New York Art Fair. I had a goal, I had a deadline, I had in mind how many paintings I wanted to do with a story. So when you have it like that, it's easy. I find it easier, and it's more you're more successful because you're being a little bit more precise. You're not just creating artwork for the sake of creating artwork. You're being a bit more specific, but that's what works for me anyway.
Yeah, and I think every artist I've spoken to, it's different for everyone. Has a different schedule and a different way. I suppose, and lockdown has changed a lot of routines as well. So, can you tell us as well? You've won quite a few awards and commissions, and can you talk about that? Especially the piece there behind you.
My friends all call it the money maker. So they'll be delighted with that. Because to be fair,
will you ever sell it? I mean, it's kind of a special piece. It really made your name, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll sell it. It is in for an acquisition at the moment, but we'll see how that goes. If I might not, if it's not taken, then I suppose I might let it go, but we'll see. It has to be.
Well, let me know.
It is one of the special ones. Not the special ones, but it's definitely it's one of the paintings that kind of raised my profile, I suppose. That I went from just being a kind of, a normal artist to maybe achieving something, which was great. And it was kind of up to this point, I didn't really paint portraits.
Well, that's what I think is the funny thing is because you weren't a portrait artist, and now all of a sudden you're getting commissions for portraits.
You would have known that from seeing my own work, that I nearly avoided the faces because I felt like you couldn't relate to it, especially when you see someone's face. It's always, that's so down the road, or that's the person. So I like to just show arms and legs and to make it a bit more interesting for the viewer, so they can be part of it. So I took a photograph back when I was in college. I think it was the fourth year of college. So that was about 2011, and I didn't actually do the painting till 2017, which was the Hennessy Portrait Prize. So you have a lot of things on the back burners. I have lots of paintings here that are half finished that I started years ago, and I just never got around to it. So when I saw this, I just knew I had to paint it, So it was just ideal for the Hennessy as well. And the year before, one of my friends had entered, and she got shortlisted. So that kind of was intrigue for me. I had known, I didn't know obviously that it was going to win. I just thought when I got shortlisted, I was happy with that because my work was inside in the National Gallery. And then subsequently, after actually winning it, I ended up getting the commission from the National Gallery to paint Mary Cassidy, which
stunning.
Which is part of their private collection. And for me as an artist, and especially as an Irish artist, having one of your works in the National Gallery of Ireland.
I think are you the youngest artist to have a piece hanging there?
I should know that, but I'm not. I think I'd be one of the youngest anyway, definitely. Which is great.
Well, it's a great achievement, and it really does pay off. Because I don't think people realize how much time goes into a piece, and it's years. It really is. But you, anyway, it takes years. As you said, you keep going back and forth into different ones.
Yeah, I told you before that I should probably start painting in acrylic as opposed to oils because it dries quicker, so to speed up the time. But it's
you stick to what you're doing. How do you when you take on a commission? What time frame do you give clients?
It depends on each one, to be honest. Recently, I found that most people, if it's like a small commission, let's say, it would maybe they're not really pushed too much on it. They're not too worried about when you'll actually get it finished. But then when you do more of the more state commissions, I would not necessarily politicians, but definitely CEOs and directors and this sort of thing. There's usually contracts involved, and usually you have a set time, and that could be a year. It depends. Usually it's about a year. They give you a good solid year, which is a painting might only take maybe a big commission might only take maybe 2-3 months. Maybe no, it'd be less. It'd probably be around a month and a half to 2 months. Right. But so it's not actually that much. The contract has lots of time on it, but the whole point is you have to start kind of researching it, and you have to start kind of looking at what sort of composition you want or what represents the viewer. And commissions in particular can be difficult because you have a responsibility to basically show the viewer in a good light, but also try and bring your own sort of artistry to it, and try to create an interesting painting as opposed to an interesting portrait. So that's what I try.
You do that really well. Like you do know it's a Jack Hickey painting when you see it. You know, you've got your own take on it. Do you do all your own photography then when you're starting a commission? Do you request that you do everything or meet them, or do you just sketch beforehand? How does it work?
When it comes to commissioned portrait, it depends. I've taken photographs myself. So in the case of like Marie Cassidy, I took that photograph myself, and I had to take a second. I had to do 2 shoots actually, because the first shoot I felt was very administrative or promotional, or it wasn't. It wouldn't make a great painting. It would make a good like article in the magazine, but that was it. So, and I knew it was for the National Gallery, so I had to do something a little bit more interesting. So in that case, I took the own photograph. There has been another one since where I've done big commissions, and I brought in a photographer with me, and that's mainly due to just having like an assistant, especially with lighting. Lighting is a big thing, because even recently I did a commission. I went for a photo shoot, and the photo shoot, when I was taking the photo shoot, it was a really overcast day, and I love using natural light, because if you can, in my time, that was all natural light, so you get this kind of atmosphere when you use natural light. So the last time what I did is I brought a photographer, lighting kind of assistant along with me, so that so that I could just kind of make sure. It was basically like an insurance policy, because I'd already kind of taken photographs that I liked, but the lighting was a bit off, or the detail was a bit off. So at the moment, I have 3 images from the show. I've one that is the background. I have another image that is the portrait, and then I've got a close up of the person's face. So I would use kind of 3 of those images to come together to make the painting, and that's what I tend to do. I don't exactly do like paint by numbers or what people would imagine. That's what people see. Sometimes they think it's kind of something along those lines, but it's not so much that, because if I showed you the original photographs that I took, it would you'd kind of see the difference. All right, like.
And do you have a preference? Do you painting male or female? Does it matter to you?
No, not necessarily. I think at the moment it's very prevalent to start commissioning of females, because of the certain kind of situations that have happened, and just the kind of not popularity, the help me out here, Denise, my words. What I'm trying to say is that
because women are great.
There hasn't been too many kind of portraits of females that are like CAOs or presidents or anything along those lines. And funny enough, the two biggest commissions, or 3 if you include this, commissions that I'm doing, that I've done and that I am doing, are all female. The next one, I don't think there's a problem in me saying it, because I think it's kind of common knowledge, is Mary Horgan, who is the president of the Royal Physicians of Ireland. So that's my next big commission, and I'm delighted to be able to. And the funny thing after talking to her is that all the presidents before that were male. So she's the first female president.
That you got selected to paint her.
Yeah, and I think that's because of the Maria Cassidy, because she had seen the portrait at the National Gallery, and then decided that that's the sort of painting that she wants. So it's all these kind of, like, I remember someone mentioned before, which is of Saoirse Ronan, to be able to paint her, or I didn't meet Mary Robinson. Sorry, I was at a garden party, and he was over in the distance, and she's someone that I regret deeply that I didn't go over and say hello to. Sonia O'Sullivan from Cove is another. She only lives not even a kilometre away from me. She grew up a kilometre away from me, so that would be another person that I'd be interested in. So there's lots of different names, but they tend to be.
How do you approach that? I mean, would you Would you
It
wait
depends.
to get an invite to, or would you ever suggest it?
It depends on the situation. So, for instance, if it was like, let's say, Sonia O'Sullivan, I would contact her directly because I think we're both from Cove. We both know I think even our parents would know of each other, and that sort of thing. But then when it comes to someone like Saoirse Ronan, I don't know, it's a DM her on Instagram or something. I'm not sure. And with Mary Robinson, I think it's kind of the same, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's a little bit more. It could go through contacts or whatever the case may be, So
You have
it's
your wish list, your bucket list of who you want to
yeah,
pay.
exactly. Yeah. There's no
And
roadmap.
Jack, do
Like
you know when you unveil the portrait, do you ever get nervous, or do you keep the client up to date by sending them images as you go along, or is it literally on the day that they see it?
it's funny because there's no really guidelines or set kind of rules, or so each kind of person. Most of the commissions that I have done, like portraits of people, they've decided to wait to the end. They don't want to see it till it's finished.
Wow.
But most cases, yeah, they kind of just let you do your thing, but you have kind of even before
Butterflies.
you know,
Do you get a bit nervous at all when you're
I did
unveiling?
with the commission for the National Gallery, to be honest, because
Yeah.
she hadn't even seen it on the day, and I think I was kind of a bit nervous, and I think my whole family was nervous, and everyone was nervous. But she told me that she loved it, so I could really take her word, and the gallery loved it as well, which was equally as important. So yeah.
So what's next? I just see in the background, is that a landscape piece behind you? Is that your new work that you're doing, or new direction?
That one.
Yeah.
That's a landscape piece. It's hard to see, but there's actually a crane here. So it's
Right.
actually the dockyard in Cove. And it's
Lovely.
funny enough because I took that photograph. I took the photograph to do the painting of. It was a small photograph, and I ended up destroying the file. But I had a small photograph that I had taken of it. So and the cranes as well got dismantled like a week later. So I always find that if you're even as a photographer or as an artist or as any artist, if you're taking a shot of something, try and get it because you don't know when it's going to be there, and it's always these kind of moments. Like for example, there was a case. It was up in Cork, and I always pass it, and I always see it when I pass, and it's an underpass, but it's got a tent underneath it, and the sun on a sunny day comes through a gap like and shines down on the tent, and I wanted to take a photograph of it for so long, so I'd be able to do a painting of it, and I never got a chance. And like a week or two later, it had passed, and the tent, the person had moved on. So it's these moments, and you kind of have these moments, and I just said, capture them. You might do anything with them. You might do anything with them for like 4 or 5 years, and then eventually you come back to it, and you use it at some point. Like artists, they're probably the best hoarders around, I would imagine.
But do you like painting landscapes? I mean, is that something that you're going to do for the future?
I never said like portraiture. I never said that I was a portrait painter. I never said I was a landscape painter. I would paint. I would paint anything or everything, as long as it kind of
Exciting.
as long as you make it interesting, because if you have a sunset, like a beach and a sunset, you kind of know that it's beautiful, but you have to, if by adding in things to make it a bit interesting. So let's say if there's a shopping trolley on the beach, then it obviously gives you something else. If there's a dog running across the beach, it gives you another emotion. If there's a boat in the background, all these, like every little thing, if you just put them in, it can give you a different sort of narrative or a different story. So when I do my work, I try and kind of leave it open, but also kind of focus in on something. So it's like the viewer has a starting point, but they finish the end. So when it comes to like landscape, as long as the painting is interesting, because like the water tower in the background of the back screen is a landscape. Effectively, it is a blue sky. So it doesn't necessarily. I don't necessarily go, okay, I'm going to do a series of landscapes today. I might just go, oh, I'll do that one. Oh, I'll do that still life. Oh, I'll do that portrait. And it's funny because by the way I paint and how I kind of how I put the composition together, you can kind of nearly link them. So you can have a portrait next to a still life and next to a landscape, because they've got the same sort of tonal range, or they have some sort of element between them all that kind of links them.
And tell me, Jack, the one behind me, I just love the title, Let's Make Bunting Great Again. And a lot of your titles have a bit of humor in them. Do you decide on the title before you start the painting, or is that something that happens towards the end?
It's very rare that I know the title before I do the painting, to be honest. Really? Okay. I might have an idea of a title, and then it usually changes, or if I haven't got a title, it kind of comes to me while I'm painting it. Or so it's I'd never kind of nail down anything from the get-go, but I have ideas in mind, and you know, but it does play a part. It definitely does, because Absolutely. if you have a good title, then it can automatically, people can go, oh yeah, I get it. Sometimes the title is the
Well, it's so important, titles with a painting, and so it's really.
When I first started painting, I was really bad at naming titles. So what I used to do is I used to just pick songs, like titles of songs. So like one of the first paintings I ever did for my degree show was called "Enjoy the Silence" from the song Depeche Mode. And then I had another one called "Dry the Rain," which was from a band called Beta Band. And I had they were all kind of Policy of Truth was another one, and there was a few other ones, but and that was great at the start. But then you kind of realize that a title can add even more, and there's all these little kind of subtleties. So like even people don't realize the framing of a painting can actually make it, it can either add to it or take away from it. And it's only something small, but it actually, every little bit adds to it, so it's kind of like, it's attention to detail that actually does make the difference, whether it be even you're packaging up a print to send to someone, or you're packaging up a painting. If you have the presentation correct, it looks good before they've even opened it, or before, so they're automatically got a sense of how of, oh yes, this is going to look really good, and all those things can add to it.
And last question: what's in the future? What are you working on now? Are you entering any certain prizes ahead, or?
What COVID has done, which is great, is that it's kind of, you reassess everything and you kind of start nailing down deadlines and dates. And for example, I'm doing more work to add to the New York paintings that so that we hopefully in 2021 we'll be going back over to New York with the artwork. And there are 5 paintings in your gallery at the moment, and I'm hoping to nearly do another 5 and add to it. So we'll see what we can do. Obviously the work takes a lot of time. I have that. Another thing that I have to do is that big commission for Mary Horgan. So that's a 2 or 3 month deadline on that. I think it's been extended due to COVID, but it's all good that end. But it's just something another one. I'd like to enter the BP Portrait Prize, which is the biggest portrait prize in the world, the most notorious. Anyway, so I hope to enter that with one of my pieces. And I also have the RHA. I don't know if I mentioned that, which is they got postponed. So one of the pieces that I have here has been judged at the next stage of the RHA annual show. So I'm actually kind of waiting back on a lot of information or confirmation from different So there is a lot of deadlines and a lot of things to be done, and you're always trying to create more artwork as well at the same time. So I'm going to be busy anyway.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can't wait to the next lot. It's so nice to have them in the gallery, and I would encourage anyone to pop them in and see them in flesh, because they are absolutely outstanding, Jack. So well done, and hopefully we'll get to New York next year. So thank you so much. It's been great fun this week getting to know you, and thanks for your time tonight. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks very much.
All right. Take care. Bye.